interrupt. Their energy ticks down, and when it reaches 0, they burrow to a new spot. Kick and kill those. The other heroic addition are malignant growths that will spawn in the final phase. They pop up and explode to do massive damage within 8 yards, so get away from those. You'll be staying spread for waves, running out with orbs, dodging orbs, turning for gaze, running from ceiling debris, and avoiding malignant growths. It sounds like a lot. Have fun. So that is ghuunnnnn. Thanks for watching.
It's the last boss. Of course we're pulling. What's up? This is Jim Pro from Ready Check Pull, and this is the Need to Know strategy guide for heroic and normal Ghuunn. We did it, team. We made it. This fight has some funk to it, so we're gonna set up the raid, then jump into the whole power matrix mechanic / gauntlet thing. Okay, here we go. Assign 6 teams of at least 2 DPS each to be our power matrix teams. 3 teams on the west gauntlet and 3 teams on the east gauntlet. Add a 3rd DPS to any team that has low mobility. You'll also need to designate your most mobile healer to run the gauntlet every time. This should probably be someone who is vocal and can lead the teams. These teams will be running the power matrix, which is located here or here. The order of the gauntlet is always the same, starting on the west wall when you pull the boss, then rotating between east and west every 15 seconds after the power matrix has been deposited by the previous team. The teams need to know what order they'll be going in and which sides they'll be running before you pull. Let's talk about how you'll be getting the matrix to the deposit station. The first DPS in the team should pick up the matrix from its spawn point, run as far up the platform as possible until they're immobilized. Then they'll throw the matrix up to 20 yards away to the next DPS who will catch it and start running the matrix until they are able to click the deposit site and deposit the matrix. Depositing the matrix 3 times gives your raid a huge damage buff and stuns all enemies. But there's a slight catch. If you've held the matrix at all, you won't be able to interact with it again for 5 minutes, so don't throw it too early. In the gauntlet, you can damage the blobs that are on the ground to shrink their slowing gray web, or you can just simply jump over it like a real G. Okay, phase 1. The first matrix team should start their run immediately as the boss is pulled. The second team should follow up 15 seconds after the matrix is deposited, and the same with the third team. On pull, a tank should bring the big ad towards the middle of the room where everyone is initially stacked. Melee DPS should be attacking the big ad while ranged DPS attacks and interrupts the small tentacle ads. Every 20 seconds, the big ad casts a circle on the ground that buffs and debuffs everything around it. Players benefit from this circle buff, so try and stand in this circle, but you'll die if you get this debuff twice, so melee need to be especially careful to never get hit by this a second time. After the first cast, the tanks should try and keep the big ad on top of the other tentacle ads. The big ad also occasionally hits the tanks with a huge damage smash that knocks them back. Additional small tentacles will spawn every 25 seconds. Range just kills them like before. A bigger tentacle ad will occasionally spawn as well, that needs to be tanked, interrupted, and killed quickly by both ranged and melee DPS.
Or at least one of them.
A green debuff will regularly go out on random players that expires after 5 seconds. Any player who gets this debuff should get out of the raid quickly. When the debuff expires, it causes a 5-yard explosion, creates a small gray patch on the ground, and releases 5 gray orbs. These orbs will wipe your raid if you don't pay attention to where they're going. When the third power matrix is deposited, it triggers a blast that pulses for raid-wide damage, stunning all enemies and doubles any damage taken by enemies for 24 seconds. This allows you to quickly finish off any ads that are left, and it also begins phase 2. Speaking of phase 2, the 4th matrix team should start their run as soon as the matrix is available on the left side. The 5th team should follow up as soon as possible as well. However, the 6th team should aim to finish their run just after the second ad spawns. The damage increase will make it much easier to kill this ad. The boss is now active. Tank the boss towards the middle of the room and have the raid spread at least 5 yards from each other around the boss to prevent extra splash stacks from the wave ability the boss casts. The wave applies a stack of putrid blood to everyone and also to anyone in extra splash stacks towards the middle of the room and have the raid spread at least 5 yards from each other around the boss to prevent extra splash stacks from the wave ability the boss casts. The wave applies a stack of putrid blood to everyone and also to anyone in 5 yards of the person hit. Putrid blood needs to be removed in a specific way that we'll explain in a bit. For tanks, the boss gains a stacking buff that increases in damage every time Ghuunn hits the same tank. The tank should taunt swap at after 8 stacks. The boss continues to apply the green debuff for the rest of the fight. You deal with this in the same way as phase 1. Every time the boss reaches full energy, a random player is immobilized for 10 seconds, spawning a blood ad at their feet when the 10 seconds is ended. Super important. When this blood ad spawns, it consumes all putrid blood stacks from players within 8 yards, which is the only way to get rid of your putrid blood stacks. But this also increases the blood ad's health and damage by 5% per stack absorbed. So a tank needs to pick the blood ad up, and the ranged DPS needs to nuke it down while still staying 5 yards apart. It also casts a raid-wide interrupt every 15 seconds, so stop casting when it's casting. I'm sure there's a weak aura somewhere to help you avoid this interrupt.
More info at readycheckpool.com.
There are several different ways to handle the spawning of the blood ad. The players in Team 6 of the Power Matrix will be the only people standing close to the first immobilized person. When the blood ad spawns, it will consume all of their stacks, buffing itself. Team 6 should then immediately get ready to run the gauntlet. When the second person gets immobilized, everyone in the raid will stack on that immobilized player. Team 6 should be ready to deposit the matrix as soon as the ad spawns. The blood ad will spawn, consuming all of the raid's debuff stacks and buffing itself by a crazy amount. Tanks might need coolies here. Team 6 now deposits the matrix to stun the ad and boss, making them take double damage. Bloodlust and smash the ads and cleave the boss. When the stun on the boss ends, spread back out. We're almost there, we're on phase 3. At 20% health remaining, the boss destroys the deposit sites, which triggers debris to fall from the ceiling. Everyone should stay far away from where the debris lands. Maintain the same 5-yard spread positioning as in phase 2. The boss continues to use all of the same abilities except the blood ads no longer spawn. Instead, the boss will cast a raid-wide fear that should be avoided by simply turning your back to it. Red blobs will also occasionally spawn and cause an 8-yard explosion. These simply need to be avoided at all costs. And that's the fight. Set it up right and it's gonna go super smooth. Good luck, and I'll see you in Mythic. You can find more guides at readycheckpool.com.
Ready check, hit no if you're in Discord. Appreciate it. Everybody should know what they're doing. I'm gonna drop a feast down here.
Oh, this freaking network.
Feast is down here. We'll buff up quick if you guys can too. Luna, you're taking west side at left. We'll just have it on boss on north wall. How the fuck did we not get a mage either? That's so weird. Hey, attack power buff, please. Thank you.
Yeah, we don't
Ready, ready to check for pull. I'll pick it up first.
5, 4, 3, 2,